Silence is not weakness. It is a weapon most people don't know how to use, and sometimes the fastest way to lose respect is to say too much, to explain too much, to react too quickly without thinking about what your words are actually costing you. Because in today's world, people are not just listening to what you say, they are measuring you through it, judging your control, your confidence, your value, and the truth is most people talk themselves out of respect without even realizing it. They reveal too much, they respond when they should pause. They try to prove themselves in moments where silence would have made them look stronger. And this is where everything shifts, because silence is not empty, it carries weight, it creates pressure, it makes people think, it gives you control over situations where others lose it, and yet almost no one teaches you when to stay silent, and when speaking actually weakens your position, not because talking is bad, but because uncontrolled talking exposes insecurity, emotional reactions, and a need for validation that people can sense instantly even if they don't say it out loud. And that is why some people command respect without saying much, while others keep talking and still feel ignored, overlooked, or misunderstood. And there is a hidden pattern behind this that most people miss. A pattern that shows up in everyday situations, in arguments, in conversations, in moments of success, in moments of pressure, and even in silence itself. Because knowing when not to speak is a skill that quietly separates those who are respected from those who are constantly trying to be heard. And in this video, you are going to discover 8 specific situations where staying silent gives you an advantage that words cannot. Situations where most people make the wrong move by speaking too soon, too much, or too emotionally. And each one of these moments has the power to either protect your image or damage it without warning. And once you start seeing these patterns, you will begin to notice how often people talk themselves into problems, how often they lose control simply because they could not stay quiet for a few seconds longer. And what makes this even more interesting is that silence does not just protect you, it also reveals others. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes them fill the gap. It makes them show more than they intended. And that gives you an edge that most people never develop because they are too focused on being heard instead of being understood. And there are lesser known psychological effects behind this that are rarely talked about, like how controlled silence can shift power in a conversation, how it can make your presence feel stronger without any effort, and how it can stop conflicts from escalating before they even begin. And these are not obvious skills, they are subtle, almost invisible, but once you learn them, they change the way people respond to you, the way they treat you, and the way they remember you after you leave the conversation. And as this video unfolds, each situation will reveal a different layer of this quiet power, showing you not just when to stay silent, but why it works in ways that most people overlook. And by the end of this, you will start to recognize the exact moments where silence becomes your strongest move, where saying nothing actually says everything, and where holding back your words gives you more control than speaking ever could. So if you want to stop losing respect without knowing why, if you want to understand the hidden advantage that silence gives in real-life situations, and if you want to develop a presence that speaks even when you don't, then stay with this video until the end, because each point builds on the next, and missing even one of them can keep you stuck in the same patterns without realizing it. And if this kind of insight speaks to you, if you are someone who values awareness, control, and quiet strength, then you are in the right place. Welcome to the channel. Make sure to subscribe and stay connected, because what you are about to learn might change the way you speak, the way you react, and more importantly, the way people see you without you saying a single word. People assume silence makes you small, easy to ignore, easy to overlook. But the truth moves in the opposite direction, because silence creates tension. It slows the moment down. It forces people to sit with their own thoughts. And when you choose not to react, not to explain, not to fill the space, something unusual happens. People start paying closer attention. They begin to wonder what you are thinking. They try to read you. And that shift alone changes the balance in any interaction, because most people are predictable. They respond fast, they defend fast, they talk fast. And that predictability makes them easy to read and easy to control. While silence breaks that pattern completely, it removes the script, it removes the expected reaction, and that is why it feels powerful. Not loud power, not aggressive power, but controlled power that sits quietly and waits. And in that quiet space, you are no longer reacting, you are choosing. And that choice is what most people never develop. They think speaking proves confidence, but often it proves the opposite. It shows urgency, pressure, a need to be understood right now, while silence shows patience, control, and the ability to hold your ground without rushing to justify yourself. And once this idea clicks, everything begins to change because silence is no longer empty. It becomes a tool, a skill, a way to move through situations without losing your position. And there are specific moments in life where this matters more than anywhere else, moments that look normal on the surface but quietly decide how people see you, how they treat you, and how much respect you keep. And these moments appear again and again in daily life, in conversations, in conflicts, in success, in pressure. And most people fail in them without even noticing. They speak when they should pause, they react when they should observe, they explain when they should step back, and every time they do that, they lose a small amount of control, a small amount of respect. And over time, those small losses add up, shaping how others respond to them without any clear reason. And that is why understanding these 8 situations changes everything, because it gives you awareness in real time. It shows you exactly when silence becomes your advantage, when holding back your words actually moves you forward. And each situation reveals a different layer of this, not as theory, but as something practical, something you can notice and apply immediately. And it begins with one of the most common moments where people lose control without realizing it. When emotions rise and words follow too quickly. When anger takes over and turns a temporary feeling into permanent damage, because words spoken in anger do not just disappear, they stay. They shape how people remember you. They shift the tone of relationships, and even if you apologize later, the impact remains. And silence in that moment is not weakness, it is protection. It gives you space to regain control, to stop a reaction from becoming a mistake, and it prevents you from saying something that cannot be taken back. And then there are moments where someone tries to pull you into a reaction, where they push, provoke, test your limits just to see how you respond. And most people fall into this instantly. They defend themselves, they react emotionally, they try to win the moment with words. But that reaction is exactly what gives the other person control, because now they have your attention, your energy, your focus. While silence breaks that loop completely, it removes the reward, it shows that you are not easy to manipulate. And in that stillness, the power shifts back to you without a single word being spoken. And there are quieter moments too, moments where you are not angry, not provoked, but simply unsure, where you do not fully understand what is being said, where speaking too soon creates confusion instead of clarity. And in those moments, silence becomes intelligence. It shows that you are thinking, that you are observing, that you are not rushing to speak just to fill the space, and that patience makes your words stronger when you finally choose to use them, because they come from clarity instead of impulse. And then there are social moments that seem harmless but carry hidden risks, like when conversations turn into gossip, when people begin talking about others in ways that reveal more about themselves than their targets. And joining in might feel easy, it might feel like connection, but it quietly lowers your value because it places you in the same pattern. While silence keeps you separate, it keeps you clean, it shows that you do not need to pull others down to feel included, and it protects your image in ways that words cannot. And interestingly, silence becomes just as important in positive moments as it is in negative ones, especially when things are going well, when you are winning, when progress is happening, because the instinct is to share, to announce, to prove. But speaking too soon can weaken momentum. It can invite opinions, pressure, and attention that disrupts your focus, while moving in silence keeps your direction clear. It allows results to build without interference, and when those results finally speak, they carry more weight than any early explanation ever could. And there are moments driven by insecurity as well. Moments where you feel the need to impress, to show value, to prove worth through words, through stories, through constant expression. And in those moments, silence becomes presence. It creates space. It creates curiosity. It allows others to come toward you instead of you pushing outward. And that shift changes how people perceive you, because value is not in how much you say, but in how much weight your presence carries even when you say less. And then there are subtle moments of disrespect, not obvious, not loud, but small signals, small comments, small tones that test your boundaries, and reacting to every one of them can make you look unstable, overly sensitive, easy to trigger. While silence in those moments becomes a quiet boundary, it shows that you notice without needing to respond, that you are not pulled into every small disturbance, and that steadiness builds a different kind of respect, one that does not depend on constant defense. And finally, there are moments where everything has already been said, where staying no longer serves you, where the situation has reached its end and the instinct is to explain, to close the chapter with words, to seek understanding or validation before leaving. But the strongest exit often comes without that, without the final speech, without the attempt to be fully understood, because silence in that moment is clarity, it is acceptance, it is movement forward without looking back, and it leaves behind a presence that words could never fully capture. And when all of these moments come together, a deeper pattern begins to form, showing that silence is not about avoiding expression, it is about choosing it wisely, it is about knowing when words add value and when they take it away. It is about control, timing, awareness, and intention, because silence is not empty, it is filled with observation, with restraint, with quiet strength that most people overlook, and that is why those who master it move differently. They react less, they observe more, they speak with purpose instead of impulse, and over time this creates a presence that feels calm but powerful, simple but effective, quiet but impossible to ignore, because the more you master silence, the less space you give others to control you, the less you expose your reactions, the less you lose yourself in moments that do not deserve your energy, and in that space, you begin to understand that not every moment needs your voice, but every moment benefits from your control. And that control is where real strength begins and continues to grow without needing to announce itself to anyone around you. And maybe now it feels a little clearer. Not everything needs a response. Not every moment needs your voice. And not every silence is empty. Sometimes it is the strongest thing you can offer. Because the less you rush to speak, the more control you keep, the more respect you protect, and the more powerful your presence becomes without forcing it. And if something in this shifted the way you think, even slightly, then stay connected, because this is just the beginning of understanding how quiet strength really works. So take a second, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this, someone who keeps giving too much away with their words. Because sometimes the smallest change, like choosing silence at the right moment, can change everything without saying anything at all.